Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Man,
dude,
look at that scene right there.
That's a pretty good setup, man.
I tell you what, man. It looks pretty good. Let me yeah.
What are we sipping on tonight, man?
Little Plank Owner, little Muscle Beach IPA.
Yes,
We
sir.
can talk about that too.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we got a chance to talk about that last week.
Not much. Let's see if anybody's I guess people probably can join in here. But guys, welcome to the Formula Cast. Hopefully you can hear us. We're not using our studio microphone today, so we're relying on the MacBook Pro here, simply because I didn't have the right dongle.
What is that? Is that a legitimate term?
Well, yeah. So this is considered a dongle, but we like to say dongle a lot at TNS.
Yeah, I was gonna say
we like to dingle our dongles. You know.
Good.
Yeah. So we got the rest of the TNS crew over there eating some food, indulging. I've got a call from Stephen Anstith coming in. I would love for you to answer that, Isaac, if you could. That is our Muscle Foods rep, and I know it's an important call. Mm-hmm. So if you could just take a message, thank you. So Justin, how are you, man?
I'm good. I feel this just feels, like you're kind of like going into like a new place, but this kind of feels like it's right. It feels good, right? You got everything back here. We've obviously done a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
one thing. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, if you want me to just dive right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this morning I sent Jacob a screenshot. I'm like, I bet you it's been probably about like 2 years since we started talking to each other. 2 years is not very long.
No.
Right? So I scrolled all the way back through our DMs and I went back to the very beginning, very first DM we ever sent to each other. And it was like June 25th of 2019.
Isn't that crazy?
And, at that time, you were right about to do the 1 year anniversary party.
Because I made that video, and I think that's when we first connected, because you were like, it brought emotion to both of us.
Right. So I'll definitely get to that.
Go ahead.
So this was a little bit before that, because you and I did a live together and we talked on our live. Then the 1 year party was a little bit after that. And that's kind of what's crazy about when you look at this entire process is how far, you get so ingrained. We talk about this all the time. You get so ingrained in the day-to-day that you forget how far things have kind of come just in such a short amount of time.
Dude, it's insane.
But one reason why, like, tying this whole entire process together, like why I live here now, which 2 years ago when we met, I can't say that I ever would have like lived in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. I don't think like anybody saw it, or even 1 year ago.
Nobody just says that though. Like, oh, hey, by the time I'm X, I'm going to be living in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. Right. But
it's like you just being open to like this crazy thing we call life, man. Is that too deep to get into?
No. I mean, we might need to delve into this. So what is? No, but dude, it is insane to like say that I've known you for 2 years and to see how our friendship and our partnership is. Yeah. I would consider us somewhat business partners on a certain level with how we communicate with each other, and it's just crazy to see the development, and everything around us too. So
what I always say. Usually in private conversations with people, it seems to like make sense, is when I say sometimes you're sort of like going through life, right? Especially when you get on like an entrepreneurial path, or anytime you're breaking some kind of like, not necessarily it's a bad thing, but say you're breaking a sort of cycle that you're kind of going through, or, your family, you talk about, you have a similar family than I do, very much on one path, very much don't understand necessarily like what we do on a day-to-day basis, but they try to. But sometimes you feel like you are in like a foreign country and you don't speak the language, right? Because you're around people that you don't understand them. They're talking about this and you're like, man, that just doesn't make sense. And then you have these thoughts in your head that they don't understand. And you start to feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Like, why don't I agree with all these other people? But then when you and I connected, it was like one of those moments where you hear the language someone uses and you go, it's like being in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, and then you hear someone speak the same language and you immediately like gravitate towards that person.
Right.
And your 1 year video was especially the thing that sort of I felt that like big time, like you and I connected, we connect with a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
All the time.
That's
You're always
do.
talking to people, right? And then you have certain relationships that are here, and then you have a few that go here, and then you have that select few that go to that next level. And you did your 1 year anniversary video. And I'll never forget it. I was in Boston visiting Brady, and I'm in the hotel room, and I'm like, just waiting. I'm going to go meet up with Brady that day. And I watched this video, and I was like, I started like crying, like watching this video, listening to you talk about this process. And I was like, man, I have to do what I can to spend more time with people like that.
Well,
like that was kind of the whole thing. Like that 1 year video, like I said, it's just kind of one of those things.
And that doesn't go unnoticed, man. I mean, you're exactly right though. Kind of like stepping back a little bit and talking about like being around people where they speak a certain vernacular and a certain language, and you're just like, I don't get that. Like I don't want to like go down this rabbit hole of just success mindset necessarily, but you spend time with people that you go to high school with and people that are around you, and they're just talking about the game, or like, how'd your team do this week, or like, hey, can't wait till I got this time off to do this. And like, I'm like, I don't necessarily relate with the way this way that this being spoken, like, because I'm just over here wanting to work and talk about like how to improve my passion. So it makes you start like circling the drain a little bit in your brain. Like, am I weird? Like, am I fucked up? But no, that's not the case at all. You just have to.
And it's not saying that, they're right, you're wrong, it's good or bad. It's just different. And I think that like a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people look at successful entrepreneurs and things like that, and they see that the traveling and the events and all sort of stuff. Well, entrepreneurship and leading up to that is extremely lonely.
Yeah.
Because you don't, especially as you're getting started building, you're nobody. You have nothing.
Yeah.
So I have nothing to connect with you about because I haven't figured it out yet. You're doing your thing, and you're so ingrained in it that it's hard to focus on anything else.
And so many people say though, and this is one thing that I can't stand. So many people say it's lonely at the top. That's bullshit. I think it's lonely at the bottom, because when you're at the bottom climbing to the top, you don't have time to be with other people. You were grinding to build that base. And then guess what? When you climb out of that a little bit, you meet people that are in the same way as you, because you've hardened yourself.
That's a good point.
That whole mentality of, it's lonely at the top. No, you've evolved your friend group, and the only people saying that are those who are left behind.
Yep. And I think that like one thing that you and I talk about too, that's a really big struggle for a lot of people is learning when to delegate, when to take things off your plate. Usually you start off with this concept, and people always refer to it as your baby and stuff like that. And that's fine. You're very protective of it, but at the same time, you can't get so attached to it that you don't leave time for sort of anything else, especially as you grow, because if you want to grow it to any sort of level, you have to let go, at some point. So you have to let your baby go. You have people that you trust here. I have Brady, who I trust just like him. He's just the perfect person to have. I can step away and he just picks up the reins. He's like, dude, I got this. And then he knows if he has to. It's like, if you want to do it all by yourself, it's too much. You know what I mean? You can only do like so much. Yeah. So it's like, but it sort of opens you up to do, like people see us now, or they see me now. People like joke all the time. I know, like Robbie from Apollon, he always jokes. He's like, what do you do? He's like, are you in like the KGB or something like that? Because he sees me like I travel around. I do all sorts. It wasn't like that for the first couple of years. It was literally sitting in a room by myself on my few hours of downtime, grinding away at every single like moment. And now you sort of can breathe a little bit, and sort of move around. So you're exactly like.
No, I get that, man. Yeah, and speaking of Robbie, he I don't think he's going to make it out, but I know Jose's coming out from Apollon.
Yeah, I wish Robbie was coming too. Oh, and we have we have.
Oh yeah, I was going to say.
We have the 5 pound. Look at those big.
Yeah, guys, Apollon. If you're watching this, or if you come across it, please make peanut butter cookie in the 5 pound, please. Ooh. And caramel macchiato. We love it. We love you guys, but the caramel macchiato just speaks to my soul, my loins, and my future. I don't know.
Yeah.
So obviously new store. We have a few exclusives to Greenville. Not that I'm like as far as brands, but
oh yeah,
no, we're not going to go there. We're not going there.
Okay.
That's behind the scenes conversation. I don't really care about it having exclusive brand. When I say that, I mean that
I'm just kidding.
The company's not exclusive with me, but it is exclusive to this location. So
which is like what?
Muscle Sport, for example, we brought in their lean whey.
I said on my stories a little bit ago, I posted about it. I said, granted, it's not original because we have fresh Chris, but I said we have some fresh Dre and some fresh J.
Yeah.
We love Muscle Sport.
I love Dre. Dude, Dre, like I asked him yesterday, it's funny because every time we talk, it's just a good time. Like every conversation.
He's like the best.
He's so cool. And, I was like,
he's the best.
I was like, hey, man, have you seen Old School? You know the movie Old School?
Mm-hmm.
You're my boy, Blue.
Oh, absolutely.
That's Dre. I'm like, you're my boy, Dre. And so
he's just such a good guy.
Well, the thing is, like, we were sending each other. You know what? Like, sealed the deal for me. We were sending each other care packages without doing a lick of business with each other. He sent us Muscle Sport care packages. We were like, hey, we want to send you some TNS stuff, Right. And we became friends. And then, it's like, okay, now let's support the brand. Let's do some business.
Isn't it funny how we were just talking about that last time?
Yeah.
About how it's like, hey, all that stuff will work itself out. There's that transactional relationship that is just common with business anyway, but especially I've noticed in this space. Where you have like, I do this, you give me this in return kind of thing, and that's cool. But when you have a business that's so reliant on trust and building this long-term relationship, why would it be like that? Like, why is that? And that's like, we talked about like where maybe GNC, I think they went wrong in certain things where you're talking about numbers rather than building, long-term trust and all that stuff. So that's cool, man. I love Dre. Such a freaking great guy.
You're not wrong. But so what's new in your world, man?
What's new in my world? We have that's the fun part about, we focus so much on the consulting aspect. I don't like to use the term consulting. It's just like kind of like an outdated term because the way Brady and I attack how we work with brands is it's very personal. Mm-hmm. Like we really try to bring on just a specific type of person. And it doesn't make, if we didn't work together, that doesn't mean good or bad. It's just everyone has to just line up. Like there's so many times where we could just take somebody on for some money, and make a good paycheck and things like that. But if it's not something that we see can last for years, and we also want that other person to feel comfortable, like this is a thing. This is like, bringing people on your team, but also not like making them partners. Like that's just how we prefer to do things.
Right.
And we get so ingrained with some of these people. It's like you go through these ups and downs with them, every single day. It's like you just never know what's going to happen. But we have such a great, I literally wake up every single day like going, this is just the best. Mm-hmm. Like it's stressful. We stress over the people that we work with. You lay your head down at night. I'm not just worried about Supplement Snoop and the app and everything we're trying to do. I'm worried about
the people.
Our different clients. Is everything okay? I wake up in the middle of the night. I look at my phone, make sure like there's no like emergency messages. But when you see the good parts come out of it, it just makes you want to do it more and more and more every single day. And it's just like when you have a customer come in here, the part that we always talk about where, say, some stores lose it and you gain it is when you meet that person the first day and you give them a piece of advice, and then you see them a month later, you see them 6 months later. Now you're going to start seeing people 3 years later, mm-hmm. probably the same customer. You're watching them go through it, man. Like that's the best.
It's super rewarding, man. Yeah.
And now you have this whole new community that you're going to be.
We're going to try to build it, man. I mean, this place is Greenville, guys. If you're watching this or listening on, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify. By the way, all of our podcasts are uploaded to every podcasting platform mm-hmm. after the fact. So, anyway, guys, if you've heard of Greenville, South Carolina, it is huge. It is mm-hmm. number 7 in the U.S. of nicest places to live. That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But it's massive. It's got just a booming community of health-minded people. So, there's nothing like what TNS does here. I mean, mm-hmm. I venture to say there's not a whole lot like TNS out there, but here specifically, we want to bring something different.
You know what? And here's like something so you talk about, this kind of ties into like what I say almost like every day. There's there's so much information out there. We have access to so many people now, but people get like, they spend too much time sort of listening to everyone else, and you just sort of bring in information, but you don't ultimately do anything about it. What I've seen in what I noticed with you is you talk about Andy Frisella being a huge influence on you, right? Andy kind of did the same sort of thing, right? Where you take this, they're so big with how they support people in their community. Like you even said, like, I'm not wild about their supplements. They're not bad. Yeah. But what they've done as far as brand loyalty is like unheard of for the space.
But it's not because of what they sell. It's who they are.
Exactly.
And, and it's cliche to say, but, if you go up to St. Louis right now, man, where First Form's based, right? That community is enriched by what First Form has provided to them through charity, through events, through, just doing so many great things. And that's, we want to do that, but
your own way.
Yeah, in my own way. I never want to, and I'm super opposed to being that guy that says, like, we're going to be just like this company.
Right.
I don't believe in that. Yeah, we don't want to be like them. We want to be,
But I think that, right, and that's exactly like what I was getting at is you saw Andy and you heard something, you saw his approach, and you're like, let me extract this lesson from that, and then let me go do it myself. Where what we kind of run into these days is you're so overloaded with all this stuff that you're almost like worn out by the time you read all this, motivational stuff or see all this. So if you're listening to like our podcast, or if you listen to TNS stories every day, or if you listen to my stuff every day, and you just pick out one thing, focus on that, and then take that step the next day. And it's kind of like, that's how it was with me. Brady is my biggest influence. Right. And fortunately, I was working with him at the time, which was cool, but he'll say something, we'll have this big, long conversation, and he'll say something, and I'm just like, that's the thing that I needed to hear.
Right. Yeah, it's like something snaps. Yep. It's like, holy shit, like you said that for me, That's,
And then so focusing on that, it gets to be so noisy, and everything kind of going on that you almost, I mentioned to you, like when I came here, I said, there's a lot of times I think of a topic that we can talk about, but I forget.
Because you see my message that just popped up there?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because so much stuff kind of happens. So we just like get overloaded with all this stuff. And then you forget what the point was to begin with. So I said, now I'm going to, like, when something pops in my head, I'm just going to write it down.
Right. Right? And I try to do that, man. Like, I got a little pissed earlier because this place, I mean, the guys, dude, I've got to thank Isaac and Austin, Michael, our newest team member. He was just in here. I should have introduced you guys, but Michael and his fiance. So he's going to be coming here full time starting next month. But dude, they have done such an incredible job. But earlier today, there was things that I was running all over the place. I'm like, crap. I'm not like, I have all these ideas that are flying. I'm not writing them down. And then 30 seconds later, I have another idea that like takes over that one. So
yes, I'm very familiar with your creative process.
It's rough.
It wears me out.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's a good thing. But like you said, it's sometimes so much stuff kind of happens where you're constantly in that mode where you're thinking, and this isn't even an entrepreneurial thing or a business mindset thing. This is everybody. Because a lot of times, and this was me before too, it's like people have their jobs, they have their families, and you have just a little bit of downtime, you're trying to go to the gym, so you have all this stuff. And lost in the middle of all that stuff is this spark that keeps trying to go, but then we smother that flame. You know what I mean? With
societal norms.
Right. Exactly.
It was like what you and I and Andy talked about like the other month. Very similar kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
So
or it's like, exactly that same type of thing where, we listen to a podcast and then we scroll and that's all great stuff. But like I said, there's a lot of times for every single person, we know this because we talk to so many people. Everyone's got that thing. Yeah. And you hear them bring it up every now and then, and sometimes you can't make them, but sometimes you're like, that's the thing. Like, stop talking about everything else and focus on that thing, and then go for it.
And one thing I want to kind of like backtrack a little bit, because we were talking about the podcast that we listened to and how, I took bits and pieces from Andy Frisella, you take bits and pieces from Brady. I think a big shortcoming that a lot of people have is that they look to people like who are up there, right? Even I'm seeing it now with like what we do. People will look to where we're currently at, and they only pick certain information and think that that's what's going to make them successful. So for example, we love our apparel. We love our TNS wear. You know, like we like to make fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think like I've gotten messages from a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs like, hey, what quality of shirt? Like how what's the thread look like? And like what brand? Who does your shirts? This, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, well, hey, do you have an LLC fob?
Right.
Like, do you have an Instagram page?
Yeah.
Or you have a URL, a domain?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your business plan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this is what I want to do, but I think if I have the right merch, you know, like it'll really get it out there. And
yeah,
no, and
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a piece to the puzzle.
Yep.
Where people get really excited about your TNS wear, not because of the material that you use, because the material you use is phenomenal. Like obviously, like that's my whole wardrobe is TNS, but it's because people love TNS.
Yeah.
Where you get.
Side note, we weave Isaac's beard hair into every thread, and that's what does it right there.
That's what it is. See, that's why you tune in.
But anyway, sorry for the side tangent. I was just like, I think a lot of people get hung up on things that don't move them forward, especially when all that they have around them is an influence of those who are higher than them.
I can attest to that 1,000% because a lot of times, when we're working with, say, a brand that's getting started or someone sort of stuck, a lot of what they're stuck on is misinformation. They're asking the wrong questions. They're asking, what's my dosage? What ingredients should I use for this? It's like, well, that's all fine and good, like ingredients, and it's all part of the puzzle, right? But a lot of times the answer to why you're sort of not getting to where you want to go is you're not asking the right questions, right?
Exactly.
It's not about, what type of material or how much, of this ingredient you're using, or like, we know so many people at this point, and this is not like a knock against anyone, but we know so many people that are so dedicated to making insanely expensive, fully loaded, all this stuff, these crazy formulas, but they then can't tell anyone about it because they have no money left over. Well, like it or not, that's the world we live in. People are under this false impression that if you make a cool formula or something like that, that's going to get people's attention. It's not. It just doesn't work that way. Like, people are so bombarded with information all the time that it just goes in one ear and out the other. And it's like, how many times do you see that with a supplement company that says, or they'll probably come to you, it's like, hey, I have this cool formula. It's like, well, that's good. A lot of people have cool formulas.
Seeing I don't know. I guess we're a little bit different because I go for the good formulas typically.
Well, what I mean is like,
no, but I see what you mean.
You have brands like Glaxon and Core and I mean, look at freaking Unbound.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Right? So you have, but now they were, Glaxon had a ton of experience. Core has been around for a long time. And Core really just like,
they hit their stride.
They've blown up. They were a brand for a long time.
They hit their stride like probably 2 years ago with that rebrand.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. That their rebrand was huge. They always had amazing formulas, but they weren't really, I don't want to say like a household name. It's not like a disrespectful thing to Core, but it's just you had great formulas, but then you have to build up all the rest of that stuff. Yep. So it's like, now when people are kind of getting into space, you're fighting against great companies that have been in business for a long time that have great formulas. I mean, you're telling me that you're going to give up, like, look at the backing that NutraBio put behind Unbound, and someone's going to come and compete with that. So you have to like find your niche. It's really hard to start a brand from scratch without any help. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like kind of one of those things where, I don't know, man, there's just it's so easy to get in this space, and it's so easy to have someone else sort of handle all these things that you kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love good formula.
Well, I think it's paralysis by analysis when it comes to running. A lot of these people we know that are super intelligent, right? They're super type A, right? Like, they're very just on that. They don't think about the other components that go into creating a successful product. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, if products were mass market because they were good formulas, you would see more of this in like a Walmart and Academy. Right. But no, what do we see? We see C4. We see, Hyde, right? Like, we see the mass market formulas. And to be real with you, I'm not a fan of those formulas, right? Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think a lot of us are, but a
lot of people never discover this stuff, though. Yeah. And there's also that stigma where people will see a store like this and come and they'll be like, oh, that's for this extreme bodybuilder, type crowd. And a lot of people don't fall in that. So they go, oh, those are, and that's the thing. One of the things that actually pisses me off the most that companies do is they say, well, this is a beginner pre-workout. It's like, dude, fuck that.
One of the worst things I think Black Market did last year, personally, when they made that beginner pre, it was called like intro.
I'm not real familiar with what Black Market does.
Yeah. I mean, I like them. They're great. They run their supply chain just like Black Sun and NutriBio does.
Yeah,
but
they got some good stuff.
Yeah, but they did that to make it for people who are just beginning, and all they did was cut like a regular.
Did that too.
Yeah, well, they just cut like a clinically dosed product in half. I'm like, okay, so you're cutting the cost of ingredients, you're selling it for the same price. And the thing is, like, a lot of these companies, like, that I know and that I know, they don't, like, they act like I'm not in manufacturing and understand the cost of ingredients.
Right.
And so they think I don't know, but that's
exactly what that is. I don't get that anymore, but I remember for like the longest time, I had this really like funny, and this is kind of, I don't know if this is like kind of an ego thing too, but I know that because you and I talk about this, sometimes you get into space and neither one of us have been in this industry for very long, a couple of years. You know what I mean? You get into the space where there's people that have been here for their entire lives. And sometimes they'll sort of talk to you like in a way, and it's like, just because I'm new to the supplement industry, I'm not new to life. Well, like, you kind of get like how this stuff works. I know the way, like, this is not like the supplement space is unique in many ways, but it's also it's like a I wish I had like an analogy to use for this, but it's very cyclical, right? Like, we see people come in and out, especially in the sales side of the supplement industry, like night and day. It's like I tell you what, it's like a pot of boiling water, right? You've got this big old vat of boiling water, and you've got all these bubbles that like boil over and leave, right? But then you've got that bottom just hot, scalded water. Those are the mofos that have been there for 20 years, and they think that they're the shit because they're steaming hot. Because they've survived.
But the thing is, when I talk to those people, the old school supplement people, like, I just don't align with them. Like, a lot of times, because they're just that slick back car salesman kind of vibe. But yeah.
No, I agree. It's an odd industry, man.
It really is.
Like I said, I come from outside of it, and when I got into it, one thing that kind of struck me is I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I would meet CEOs, and you have this impression that CEOs of companies are a certain way because you come from different industries and stuff like that. And I started to meet people, and I'm like, man, like, all right, like the lack of professionalism sometimes is like astonishing. And but that's why
like high school drama,
right? It's like, man, sometimes I'm like, I have anything better to do, but that's why I think, like, you and I, we gravitate towards certain people because it's like,
I think that's Matt, if I'm not mistaken.
And Matt's going to be
here. Matt's coming tomorrow, dude. We got Matt coming tomorrow. I think Austin Page is going to be here. Josh Phillips, Austin Holt.
There's some people that have sent me some messages that said, hopefully surprise last minute kind of visits, but I'm not allowed to.
You're not allowed to say?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Why? Would it make me happy or sad?
It would make you very happy.
Okay, well.
So we'll see. But okay, on that note, so there's a big weekend for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you've been doing some reflection. So I just kind of want to hear how this, because
don't make me cry tonight.
We always talk about how we don't take a second to sort of like stop because there's so many responsibilities. There's so much stuff going on. You have an insane amount of stuff on your plate, but I know that you've said, I'm going to sit down and appreciate this. And sometimes we feel almost like arrogant about being proud of. I made that post the other day. I said, don't be ashamed of being proud of what you do, no matter what it is. And I know that that's kind of where you're at with this whole thing. So.
I'm thank you, man. It's very nostalgic to look back, because this process that we went through over the past 2 weeks here is what I went through alone 3 years ago. And so for me to have this amazing team of individuals that have the same passion and even yourself, man, like saying like, hey, what can I do? Anything I can do to help, let me know. And that's just my fault for not being the best delegator. You know, a lot of it's up here.
It's hard.
But, you know, like that's the reflection that I've been under. And like every time when I lock this door, especially over the past 2 weeks, because we're not open yet, for one, I'm like, what the fuck have I gotten myself into? Right. For two, I'm like, you know, there's that like little grandpa Jacob's like, you done good, kid. You know, like you're doing the right thing. Your purpose, your stride is going the right path. And then there's that third Jacob that's like, I have a lot of Jacobs, but I'm not multiple personality, by the way. But there's that one that's like, okay, there's the fear, the nervousness of managing two stores. Yeah. There's the one that says, I want to be the best. And you've seen that version of Jacob where he gets mad and aggressive and competitive. I don't know. There's a lot of emotions going on right now. You know, like I think it's going to hit me Saturday night after it's all said and done. Right. Or Sunday morning when I wake up after the, you know, this thing goes down.
Yeah, cool. Because I remember, like, speaking of, like, I get nostalgic about TNS. So I can't imagine, like, how you feel about it. Because I remember during the 2-year party, you know, the 2-year party was so crazy. There was so much going on. You had so much on your shoulders. You were running around like crazy. And I remember stopping you for a second. I said, Jacob, stop for, like, 1 second and just kind of, like, look around and let everything sink in. Just sort of appreciate, you know, this type of moment. And it could because, you know, things get so confusing. But
yeah, things get hung up, man. I mean, that's yeah. Those are the kind of moments that I think about after the fact, man, because I think I almost charge myself up to a certain point for these kind of events, like the Christmas party, the 2-year party. I charge myself up to like get through those, and then like 2 or 3 days later, I like have like a mental dump. Yeah, and I get emotional, and I'm like, how did that happen? Like these, and it's almost like imposter syndrome creeps in. Like these people came out to support me, like what I've done, right? And I don't even feel good about saying that because I feel like it's the community that's done it. You know, I feel like everybody that watches these videos is contributing to this. Isn't
that you think that that's kind of like a thing too, where I know both of us feel that, and I know a lot of people feel the same way, where someone wants to give you a compliment, like Jacob, like this is an amazing thing you did, and immediately the first reaction is to be like, well, you know, it's everyone, right? Kind of thing. It's almost like you're so uncomfortable with, but I think part of that is exactly kind of what you were hitting on is I really think the only difference between people that are in your position and the people that want to be in that position is that you said, I'm just going to do it anyway, even though I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Because I think the fear of not knowing what we're doing, or the fear, you know, of failure, that's the big cliche thing is, but the only difference is that fear of failure didn't stop you. There's really not, because exactly what you're saying. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. You're going totally blind. And
I don't know what the hell I'm doing at all. You know?
I know. It's like, it's amazing. Yeah. Well, I think people just make the assumption that I don't want to like out him for saying this, but I was just talking to Dan from Ghost. Yeah. Dan, brand of the year, like 10 years in a row, basically from Ghost. I mean, people would look at Dan and they would say, that guy. It was just
his birthday last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. 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 And people would say that guy knows how to make a brand. That guy knows what he's doing. He's a beast, which he is. But I remember talking to him the one day, and he's like, you know, sometimes we're in these meetings with, you know, they're doing all these crazy things. And he's like, Ryan and I just like look at each other going like, what the fuck are we doing?
What's going on right now?
Like,
yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, that's so relatable, because sometimes you're just like you, like walking out of here. You just did it because this space was available. You're so far down the path, you're not going to stop.
You remember the conversations we had last like October, right? Because I was looking in Duncan. I was like, we're going to open another one in Spartanburg. And then like something hit me like before Christmas.
I was going to ask you about this.
Oh yeah. So like I was super set on opening another store in Spartanburg. I was like, I think we can do it. And to be honest with you, we could sustain this another store in Spartanburg. But that's too easy. And for second of all, something hit me like before Christmas time, and it just maybe I was listening to a podcast from Andy or something that fired me up, and I was like, no, like we've built TNS in one spot to be this like premier supplement store, like where you go and anything that you want to know or get should be there. I was like, why am I going to do that 2 places in one county? Right. I was like, Greenville deserves to have this, and so it's going to be hard. Right. I mean, I've been on the road 4 hours a day for the past 2 weeks, back and forth. But I just know, like it's going to be worth it. Like it's going to be worth it. So.
And that's kind of that just kind of sums it up. It's like, I don't know how, I don't know these details like in the middle. I just know it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna figure it out. That's the only difference is like, well, you're too far down this path anyway.
No, there's no going back. Dude, I literally get a little like, I'm serious. Like I am a very emotional person, even though I can kind of like keep it together. A lot of times when I'm driving up here at 4 a.m. to get this place set up, especially over the past 2 weeks, I get this like knot in my stomach, and I'm like, what have I done? You know, like, what have I done? And then something snaps back in, and it's like, it's too late now, dude. Like, you're fucked. Like,
yeah, you have no choice now. Like, you're in too deep, for sure.
But I like what you said about people fear failure, right? And I posted this thing on my story the other day, and I said rejection is greater than you know, resent. What was it? The pain of rejection hurts a lot less than the pain of resentment.
Right.
Or so
of not going for it, basically.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Getting rejected is a lot better than not going for it. And that was like always a huge thing for me, was being afraid to make a mistake. Even like as a little kid, I remember like being like, you know, if I would get a question wrong on a test as a kid, you know, I would have a meltdown. It's like this fear of failure that you don't. And like I said, now it's like, and you realize that's where all the fun stuff is you know that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to go wrong. But things go wrong like every day, like multiple things. Like it's just a constant thing of like figuring it out. But I think that's why you see people like in your position, you're ahead of the game because you have to go through that stuff, right? So a lot of people never sort of dip their toe in that water. They stay in their comfort zone. It's just like going to the gym, right? Like people look at people in the gym and they go, oh, I would love to look like that. But they don't push their body past the thresholds. They go, you know, those people that you see at the gym, they've been doing the same routine, same weight, same reps, you know, for years and years and years, and they don't make any progress. And that's fine. But if they're also saying, well, God, I would really like to, you know, get bigger. I'd really like to be strong. It's like, well, you haven't pushed yourself. You haven't added any more weight to the bar. You know what I mean? It's like you haven't added. So you're just adding a lot of weight to the bar here, basically.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous. But it is what it is. So
biased. And I will say this, like, think about, right? That's well played. So, but I think that's kind of one reason why, you know, we get in this position where we talk to a lot of brands, and we can sit there and tell a brand, here's the plan on how to build a 7-figure business, or how to build an 8-figure business, or a 9-figure business. But a lot of what we do every day is people skills, like how to handle the ups and downs of running a business. That's actually where I would say most of our skills kind of come into play, Brady and I, because we've sort of been through that. So you understand what someone's going through, so you can talk to them.
Well, and there's no secret that most entrepreneurs that have, like, I would say most driven entrepreneurs that are at that level of drive, they know what their vision is, like what they want to do and what they want to accomplish is no joke, but they don't know what it's going to look like to get there and how to handle those things that come in the way. And I think that's the amazing value that you guys can help provide.
Well, and you also, it's going to change.
Oh, of course.
Like that's the thing too, is I tell this to people all the time, like, because nobody gave a shit back then. I didn't know anybody, you know, kind of thing. Like when I started the Supplement Snoop, the app thing, that did not go anything. None of this went the way it was supposed to go. None.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've never really like even like told like the story of like the beginning and then what sort of happened, and then Brady and I sort of getting together. This was not the plan.
Right.
Living in Spartanburg, South Carolina was not the plan.
Right.
But you think about being open to the process. Like I said, being open to, this was like one of the topics that I think I wanted to talk to you about too, is like, there's some times where decisions, we overanalyze things all the time. You know, we're like, okay, what could go wrong? You know, this and that. There's some times where you just have to make a decision purely based on emotion. Like, this fucking feels good. Let's go do this, and worry about the rest of the stuff later on.
Yeah, trust your gut, man. I mean, there is something to be said about that.
Yeah. I remember like moving down here, I looked at one place I didn't even really care what the apartment looked
Yeah.
like, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, I'm going to go live there
Yep.
because it's down there. I don't
Dude,
care.
you're a lot like me with that. I mean, that's Isaac. He was kind of picking on me yesterday because we were here taking apart stuff. And I've been known to say, I don't even know if we needed that. I just bought it anyway.
Exactly.
And he's like, dude, that's going to be your thing, like in your movie one day. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if we needed that. I just did it anyway.
Yeah.
And you know, and went for it. So
yeah, no, sometimes you just have to like, and I talk about like all the life changes I've sort of gone through over the past couple of years. I remember just like having that where I'm like, this is not right. I'm going there. And you could talk yourself out of almost any crazy decision because you start to let it sink in. You start to worry about it's like, oh, well, this could go wrong. This could go wrong. And next thing you know, you're drained of all that energy that was pushing you in that direction anyway. You wear yourself out. So sometimes there's these decisions that come up and you're like, fuck it. I'll figure it out later on. Yeah. I don't have to have the plan, you know, kind of. So I know I see you do that. And that's like, I feel like I watch, I'm like, that feels so relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do so many things that people are like, what are we doing, man? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. Like, fine. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. I got this. Like, I don't know how, but I got this.
Right? I say it all the time.
One quick thing. We probably need to kind of wrap it up. Going on 42 minutes here. That's kind of anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. Probably a good time. Guys, we do have the ability here, since we are on StreamYard, we have the ability to bring in any guests that you want to see. So if you guys want to have any live guests on, we can actually chat with them right here from their home together while Justin and I talk to them. So if there's anybody you want to see on here, leave a comment, shoot them a message, say, hey, the Formula would like to get with you. We just want to chat. We want to have a good conversation. This is not a review channel. This is not us giving any props to any specific supplement company. We want to communicate and have good conversations with people.
Yeah, know? I mean, we can just call up our friends and say, hey, come on if you want us to. But if there's people that you want,
I was going to say, I mean, most of you guys are going to send us people we already know anyway.
Which is totally cool.
This is cool. Yeah. I just want to see who's the most, you know, if there's any suggestions,
yeah.
Let us know.
I like
or even if it's one of you guys in here, you can always jump in here and join the waiting room. If you have Google Chrome, you can actually jump in.
I'm actually huge about that. Like I don't want to say I prefer, but I would be totally great with like just anybody jumping in. That's why I used to do the Instagram lives all the time. I'd be like, if you want to jump on the live with me, let's do it. And that was some of the like most fun times I had. Like just random people
awesome,
coming
man.
in.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Formula. Justin, thanks for coming out here to TNS Greenville. And
it's pretty awesome, man.
Thank you. Man.
This is gonna be a good weekend.
Yeah, it's about to be fun. Anyway, if you're in the area, guys, tomorrow night at about 8 p.m., we're going to have a community dinner at Iron Hill Brewing, which is about a mile up the street from here. If you're coming from out of town, if you're in the area, or if you're even from Spartanburg and you want to come up, we're going to be meeting at Iron Hill Brewery around 8 p.m. to have an amazing dinner.
Beautiful.
So, thank you, guys. Hey, awesome, man. You'll love it. Seriously. Y'all have a good one, okay?